Yo, what up guys, how's it going? Joey here, hope you're doing well. You read the title, this video is going to be a full guide. So if you've never built a gaming PC, you're in the right place. I'm going to be taking you guys step by step as to how to do everything. So first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be going over the parts and their prices. After that, I'm going to be taking you guys step by step as to how to build the PC. After that, we're going to install an operating system such as Windows 10. I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that too. Then we're going to install any necessary drivers we may need. I'm going to be showing you how to install games. So pretty much everything you need to know, we're going to be doing. Also, the CPU that we chose to go with, we're going to be overclocking it. Now, if you're not comfortable with overclocking, that's fine. You don't have to, but if you want to, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that too. And yeah, we'll get to the other stuff when we get to the other stuff. But let's go ahead and go over our parts. All right, we'll start it off with the motherboard. We want a B350M chipset. This is an AM4 motherboard, obviously. So it's compatible with our Ryzen 1200. Now this CPU, I believe it's the current budget king for CPUs. It only goes for $100. That's how much I paid for it, which is a steal. Pretty good price. The motherboard was 70 bucks. It comes with a $10 rebate if you want to count that, which brings it down to 60. So this and this, 160 total so far. For our RAM, guys, RAM prices have been skyrocketing. It's crazy, it's ridiculous. I can't wait till they come down. I hope they come down, but RAM prices are so high. You know how much I paid for this kit? $92. Yeah, see, I don't even need to look at the price sheet. It's already embedded in here. 1 terabyte WD Blue hard drive, 50 bucks. Our power supply. This power supply usually goes for $30. It's an EVGA 430 watt. I think I got it for $31.50. So yeah, prices always fluctuate on parts. So our graphics card, GTX 1050 Ti. Great little monster of a card. 4 gigs of VRAM. We're gonna be testing out all the games, all modern AAA titles, so you guys will know how this card performs. So we picked up a single 120mm fan. We got this for $6.74 is what we paid for this 120mm fan. The case was $19. This case usually goes closer to $30, but I got lucky. There was like a flash deal on Amazon and I only paid 19 bucks for it. Let's see it right here, 19 bucks. For our case. So the reason I picked up an extra fan was because this case only comes with one 80mm fan, and I guess it would be okay with just one fan, but we're gonna be overclocking. Just a 120mm fan wouldn't hurt, you know, just better airflow, why not? So total cost of this build, including everything, is $517, so a little over 500. But hey, you can get rid of the fan if you want to get closer to 500, but I think this fan's really gonna benefit our temps. All right, let's open up the case. And yeah, I've never worked with this case, which is good. I like working with new cases. All right, well, let's jump into it. So step 1, get your motherboard out of its box. Okay, so our motherboard's gonna come with our IO shield. This is gonna go on the back side of our case. 2 SATA cables. We're only gonna need one because we're only hooking up one drive, our hard drive. So I'll just get out one SATA cable for now. These are drivers, but I don't recommend installing these drivers because they're out of date. Get out the motherboard manual in case we need it. So yeah, I just set the motherboard on top of the motherboard box. We're gonna open up our CPU now. Check it out, voila. So we're gonna put our CPU in the CPU socket. This is very simple, guys. So we're gonna lift up the pin on the CPU socket. See that golden arrow? We're gonna match up that golden arrow with the arrow on the motherboard, which is right here. So just slowly and gently try to line it up and it should just drop in eventually. See, there you go, just drop in by itself. Don't push it down. You don't wanna bend the CPU pins, that's not good. And once it's in, just push the lever down. Okay, CPU installed. This is the AMD Rave cooler and the thermal paste is already pre-applied, so you don't have to worry about that. You're gonna have to unscrew these 4 screws first in order to install our heatsink. All right, so just line up the 4 points with the 4 points on the heatsink and screw it in. I like to do opposite sides, so I'm gonna screw in this side and then the side over here. So I already screwed this one in, but not all the way yet. I'm gonna screw this one in a little bit too. And the reason I did that is because if you screw this one in too much, then you won't be able to screw this one in. And to power our CPU fan, we're gonna connect it to the CPU fan header on our motherboard, just like that. Now we're gonna be installing our overpriced kit of RAM. So open up this slot and this slot. And the RAM could only go in one way, so don't worry about installing it wrong. Go ahead and push it down until you hear a click. Just like that. Don't be afraid to apply necessary pressure. All right, done, RAM installed. So don't need that, don't need that. So we're gonna install our motherboard into our case now. And this case is actually pretty small. Oh, shoot. Case user manual, case screws. And here's a little 80mm fan I was talking about. Look how small it is. Yeah, good thing we got an extra fan to put right here. Man, this is gonna be a tight fit, but we're gonna make it work. Oh, the motherboard standoffs aren't in place. So this motherboard has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we only have 6 motherboard standoffs to work with. This is fine, not a big deal. I'll just make sure to put them in the places that will provide the most support. So with this case, you could take off these screws to allow for more space. So we're gonna install our I/O shield first so we don't forget. Make sure you don't put this thing upside down. So easy way to tell is just line it up with our motherboard. Our motherboard's gonna go in like that. Push it in all the way. Okay, so I decided where I'm gonna install the 6 motherboard standoffs. But see this little tool right here? What this little tool does is you put your motherboard standoff right here, you line it up, and then you could actually screw it in. The last case I worked with came with this tool. This tool saves a lot of time and energy. This case does not come with this tool, so I'll try to find a link to it on Amazon and link it down below, but I really recommend you pick up a little tool like this. So these are the slots I picked, guys. One right here, and right here. And then one right here, and right here, and right here. So those are the 6 I picked. Okay, so getting the motherboard in here is a pretty tight fit, but I'm not gonna install the motherboard yet. I'm first gonna install the power supply, and I'll tell you guys why. I know this case does not have a window, but I still want cable management to be good because it promotes better airflow. So yeah, in order to keep the cables neat, one of the things I like to do is run the CPU power cable just straight through here, through the back right here. But if I install the motherboard first, the cable won't fit through there. You guys will see what I'm talking about. Power cable. So here's our power supply, and it comes with the 4 screws we need to screw it into the case. And when installing the power supply, you want the fan to be facing down. And this is definitely gonna be a tight fit. If you want a more pleasant building experience, go with a higher quality case. So I'm gonna put all these cables through here first. Okay, so hopefully that gives me more space to work this power supply in there. Oh, I think we got it. There you go. All right, I got it in. I'm gonna screw it in now. Power supply installed. We're gonna screw in our motherboard now. Just gotta line it up into place. Oh my God, what? How did I forget? You know what? I think it's gonna fit. Yeah, it's gonna. So if you want this cable to fit, I guess you don't have to install the power supply first. But I still do recommend you install the power supply first because you guys are seeing how cramped up this case is. Okay guys, so I'm gonna break down the cables. We have 2 sets of cables. Our case cables and the cables from our power supply. The power supply cables power things, and the case cables are so you could connect all the buttons of the case to the motherboard. So we have a power button, a reset button, and 2 USB ports, and then a microphone and headphone jack. All right, so I'm done screwing the motherboard into the case. So the first cable we're gonna connect is the CPU power cable. It's labeled CPU. And our CPU power port is right up here. Make sure you hear the click. I'm gonna pull this cable back. All right, so I was able to fit the big motherboard power cable through. This one right here, the 24 pin cable, but it was a really tight fit. So same thing for this one, make sure this thing right here clicks with this thing back here. Sometimes this part right here requires a bit of force. So what I'm doing is I'm putting my hand behind the motherboard to support it so it won't bend. And there you go, I heard it click, it's all the way in. These case cables are in the way, so let's plug these in. I'm gonna run them through here, let me show you guys. So as far as how I'm routing the cables, guys, it's all personal preference, so feel free to do it as you please. But I'm gonna route the USB 3.0 cable through here and through here. But with these small ones right here, guys, be careful, because if you pass them through here with a lot of force, I'm pretty sure you could actually maybe cut the wire and that wouldn't be good. All right, guys, so actually this one right here that's labeled USB, I'm not gonna pass that one through here because it's not long enough to reach into the slot it needs to be plugged in. So I'm gonna be taking this one out. So this USB case cable is gonna plug in right here on the motherboard. It's labeled USB. And it could only go in one way, so don't worry about putting it in wrong. Now this blue one is a USB 3.0 cable, and this one's gonna plug in right here. Next cable, HD audio, that hooks up right over here at the end of the motherboard. Okay, that's in. All right guys, so as far as the case cables, all that's left now are these little guys. They're all gonna plug in down here in the motherboard. Now there is a chart in the motherboard manual labeling where the cables plug in, and each cable is also labeled. Okay guys, so the first cable we're gonna plug in is the HDD LED. So the cable will be labeled HDD LED, and it will have a positive and a minus on each side. So I'll hook up the positive side and the camera file. So right here in the very bottom, I'm sure you see an arrow on the little cable too, that indicates positive. So positive is gonna be on the left. So we're gonna hook it up into the 2 first pins on the bottom. And still on the bottom, right next to HDD LED, we're gonna hook up the reset switch. This one doesn't matter what way you hook it in, so don't worry about positive and negative. So now on top of HDD LED, we're gonna hook up power LED. So positive again on the left. So that's in, and now last one we're gonna hook up is power switch right next to power LED. And for this one, don't worry about what way you plug it in, it doesn't matter. And we're done with one of the most tedious parts of building a gaming PC. So to install our fan, you actually want to remove the front. Just like that. So I put the fan on the wrong side. I should have put it back here because it won't fit. Fan's too thick, yeah. And we're gonna install our hard drive next. So yeah, it looks like we're gonna install our hard drive right here. You can install SSDs right here, or just twist this metal out. We don't need it. So our hard drive is gonna require 2 cables, a power cable and a SATA cable. And the screws I'm using to screw in the hard drive came with the case. So connect one end of the SATA cable to the hard drive. I'm gonna run it through here. Wow, that was like the perfect length. So we just hooked up our hard drive to the motherboard. This SATA cable is what transfers the data between the hard drive and the motherboard. But now we have to power the hard drive. So I'm in the back of the case right here, and I'm gonna run through a SATA power cable from the power supply. I have a feeling this is barely gonna reach again in length. Look at the measurements, man. They're like spot on, just perfect. Yes, perfect. All right, closed. And of course our fan needs power. Down here we have a fan header, just like that. That's gonna power our front fan. And to power our tiny 80mm fan, I hooked it up to this fan header on our motherboard. Now this is a very important side note, guys, but it comes already tied with this little thing, but this little thing has a metal wire in it. And if the metal wire were to touch your motherboard, it could potentially fry your motherboard. And I don't wanna be responsible for that, guys. I recommend you remove this and replace it with a plastic zip tie to keep the cables neat. Nvidia Geforce GTX 1050 Ti. Now guys, when opening your GPU, enjoy it. This should be a very pleasurable experience. You should feel something in your chest when unboxing your GPU. And if you don't feel anything, then you're probably doing something wrong. The GTX 1050 Ti is a dope card because it packs a punch, it's nice and small and compact, and it doesn't require an extra power cable. So all the power that this card needs, it gets it from the motherboard. So this GPU is pretty cool because say you have a pre-built desktop with a pretty decent CPU, you just slap this guy in there and it instantly turns it into a gaming PC. This metal's molded. There you go. You gotta just click them out. Yeah, see this right here? I bent this on forward because this thing could scratch the motherboard. All right, there you go, got it out. But yeah, guys, be careful. You don't want this to scratch the motherboard. So now I just wanna click the GPU into the GPU slot. So line it up and click it in. Just like that. Now you just wanna screw it into place right here. Our graphics card is now secured. We're gonna screw this lid back in now. And we're done. What do you think? What do you think? Check it out. Check it out. Look at that cable management. Look at that. Look at that. Air's gonna go in through the bottom of the case. It's gonna go out through here, This is gonna give air to the CPU. Our GPU has a fan down here and it can pull air from the bottom and then it's gonna come out of here. And the power supply is gonna suck air up. Air's gonna come out through here. So pretty good airflow, I would say, in this case. This is the PCI cable. If our graphics card required extra power, if you would have gone with a GTX 1060, it would have needed this. So you would have hooked up this to give power to your graphics card. But we went with the GTX 1050 Ti, so it didn't require extra power. So our case does have a bit of a rise up here to fit some cables. We just gotta make sure we spread them out and we should get this thing to shut. So yeah, I'm just gonna put my arms on top of it, right? To apply some weight with one arm, I guess, and then the other one just work it in. And it went in perfectly, dude. Look at that, yes! And we're done building a gaming PC. As far as how we're gonna be connecting this computer to the internet, you could either go the wired route through Ethernet, or you can use a wireless USB adapter. This one's pretty cheap and performs pretty well. I recommend it. I will link it in the video description. So down here we have our graphics card and I'm gonna be connecting the computer to the monitor by this HDMI port. All right guys, so I just turned on the PC for the first time and it's alive. So I'm gonna go ahead and press F1 to run setup on my keyboard, F1. I made a guide on how to create one of these bootable Windows 10 flash drives. You could go ahead and buy them like this already done for you, but if you wanna do it yourself, I'll link that video down below. I'm not gonna turn on the computer, and since the hard drive doesn't have anything on it, it's an empty hard drive, it should boot directly to our USB flash drive. And yep, there you go. It just booted directly to our USB flash drive. So now we're gonna install the Windows 10 operating system. It's pretty easy, just click next, install now. Okay, so first things first, let's just download our graphics card driver. There we go. We're gonna wanna download the Geforce Experience program, which could be found right here. Save as, I'm gonna save it to my desktop for easy access, save. And what this program does is, well, it's gonna install all the graphics card drivers we need. And it also allows you to record your gameplay and take screenshots of your gameplay. So it's a pretty cool program. And you could stream from it, you could do a lot of cool stuff. So you're gonna wanna go to drivers and then click download. Okay, so now we're gonna go over how to install games real quick. So we're gonna download Steam, save as, and we're gonna save it to our desktop again. So Steam is just many of the programs that allows you to download games and play them. For example, some games are exclusive to certain platforms. The majority of the games you're gonna download through Steam. Like for example, Call of Duty, Rocket League, Rainbow Six Siege. And for example, we just searched Origin, we're at origin.com. Origin is what we're gonna be using to download EA titles such as Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 1. So I'm just gonna click right here and go to download. If you wanna download Overwatch and Destiny 2 and other Blizzard titles, not that Destiny 2 is a Blizzard title, I'm just saying other Blizzard titles, you're gonna have to download the battle.net application, which is right here. We finished downloading the graphics cards driver, so express installation. So we're at msi.com right now, and I'm gonna go over to service. I will post a link to this in the description if you decide to go with this motherboard just to make it easier for you guys. I'll bring you directly to this page. Okay guys, so now we have moved into the stuff that's not necessarily necessary, but I do recommend it. Right here we have our different BIOSes. We're gonna be downloading the latest BIOS. Gonna download this BIOS, save as. So yep, I'm downloading this to my desktop. I'll go into more detail right now. I just want to have the stuff downloaded. So we downloaded our latest BIOS, right? Now we're going to go over to our motherboard drivers, and you're going to want to select Windows 10 64-bit. But if you're going to want to connect to the internet by a wired Ethernet connection, go ahead and install this LAN driver. It's a matter of just downloading. I'll go ahead and just download it. Why not, to show you guys? Okay, so that's one driver, and as you can see, they're categorized here. This is system and chipset. This is the AMD chipset driver. Our Ryzen 3 processor does not need a driver. It's not necessary. AM4 RAID driver, we don't need that either. Now this is our audio driver. As you can see right here, we already have sound, so we don't really need this either. So we don't need this anymore. I'm gonna put it in my recycle bin. The 3D Vision was installed through this too. I don't need that shortcut. Same thing, this is the Steam setup, so we could get this. We don't need this. We don't need the battle.net this, because we already have it installed. We don't need the Origin setup anymore. So just to not confuse you guys. All right, cool. So we have our BIOS right here, and we have our Ethernet driver right here. So I'm gonna show you guys how to install these right now, but let me just explain. This is the BIOS, right? You don't have to update your BIOS, guys, but I recommend you do. It may or may not improve system stability. Sometimes I'm lazy and I don't update the BIOS in case I'm having like system issues, system stability issues. Then I'll update the BIOS and see if that fixes the problem. In the last build, we did have a problem like that, and updating the BIOS fixed it. So I just feel it's my responsibility to at least teach you guys how to update the BIOS if you ever had to or wanted to. Okay, so here we go. Go ahead and right click this, extract all. We're gonna extract it to our desktop. Same thing for any other drivers you may have downloaded. So this is our Ethernet driver. So they're right here right now, so we don't need these zip files anymore. Recycle bin. And we're gonna look for setup. So just double click setup, and then yeah, that's how you would install it. Just keep clicking next. We're gonna need an empty USB flash drive. So I'm gonna go ahead and take off this Windows 10 flash drive. We don't need it anymore. And I'm gonna plug in an empty flash drive. This option will come up. I'll just click it and I'll put open folder to view files. Okay, so now let's open up our BIOS folder and click it until you see the .a60 file, and go ahead and just drag it into the USB drive. Okay, cool, so now our BIOS file is copied onto your USB drive. Exit these out, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the computer. Okay, so now turn the computer back on, and keep pressing delete on your keyboard rapidly so we can boot into our BIOS. And we're in our BIOS. So we're gonna go ahead and go to M-Flash. System will auto reboot and enter flash mode, yes. All right, so we're in flash mode, and it automatically popped up with our USB drive. That's the only thing we have hooked up, so it should be easy to navigate. So it's already selected for us, and we're gonna select the .a60 file that we downloaded, and we're gonna select yes. BIOS is updating. All right guys, so you see what it's telling us here. Don't turn off the computer. So no matter what you do, do not turn off the computer, guys. If you turn off the computer during this process, it will render your motherboard unusable. You will then have to fix it yourself or send it back to the manufacturer. That's gonna be a big headache, guys. So just be real careful. Make sure you're in a controlled environment where nothing's gonna interfere with the power connection to your motherboard. Okay, so it just finished updating the BIOS. The computer rebooted itself. Now we're booting back into Windows and it just says it's working on some updates. Okay, so the computer went ahead and rebooted itself again, but now we're finally booting into the desktop. All right guys, so at this point, the computer's pretty much ready to go. You could download games and start playing. But I now want to discuss with you guys overclocking. So the processor we chose for this build is the Ryzen 3 1200. This right here is the Ryzen 3 1300X. So our budget for this build was $500, so I didn't go with this because it's an extra $30. The Ryzen 3 1300X, it's clocked higher, so it will result in a higher FPS when playing games. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to overclock the Ryzen 1200 to match the 1300X's levels. So if you decide to go with a Ryzen 1200X, I highly recommend you overclock it. But if you're not comfortable with overclocking for whatever reason, then just pick up the Ryzen 3 1300X. It's an extra $30, but hey, you won't have to do anything. But we went with a 1200, so I'm gonna show you guys how to overclock it now. All right guys, so we just booted into our BIOS, and like I mentioned earlier, go ahead and turn off your computer, and when you're turning it on again, smash delete to boot into our BIOS. Okay. Now the majority of people choose not to overclock, so I just wanna make this process as simple as possible. We're not going to be overclocking to crazy levels, just 3.7, which should be attainable by everyone. So first thing you want to do is go ahead and go to advanced, click overclock. And we're only going to be changing one thing, only our CPU ratio. So I'm going to click this and I'm going to type in 37, enter. And as you can see right here, our adjusted CPU frequency is now 3700 megahertz, which translates to a 3.7 gigahertz overclock. Also, when you buy a CPU, right, say someone's able to overclock it to 4 gigahertz, which would be 4000 megahertz. That doesn't mean that I'd be able to overclock it to 4000 megahertz. And that's what people call the silicon lottery. So some chips are just better than others at overclocking. So since everyone's results may vary, that's why I decided to go with a speed that everyone could achieve. Most chips should be able to achieve 3700 megahertz overclock with stock voltage. If for whatever reason you just got very unlucky and this speed just wasn't working out, the computer would crash and it wasn't stable, then you'd probably have to increase your voltage, but I don't think that's going to be the case, guys. And like I said earlier, like if this overclocking process is just too much of a hassle for you, then I recommend you buy a Ryzen 3 1300X CPU instead. Now I'm going to go ahead and click X. Yes, I want to save my configuration. So our computer's rebooting, and I just want to mention one thing, guys. Be careful when turning up the CPU voltage if you don't know what you're doing, okay? Just make sure you're watching a guide video because that's how you break your computer. If you put the voltage too high, your computer's gonna blow up, okay? So just don't do that. Okay, maybe I'm over exaggerating, but yeah, it could break your computer. So just please watch a guide first, okay? All right, we're in our desktop. We're ready, dude. Congratulations, we did it. Now we're gonna download my favorite PC game. All right guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed the benchmarks. I had fun testing out the games. Feel free to comment down below any questions you may have. I'll try to answer as many as I can, and I encourage you guys to help each other out if you know.
Target is down. Get out of there now.
You send chills down my spine. Said I'm not worthy of your love. Well, this is definitely goodbye. Oh, it was fun having you around. Looking in the rearview mirror, my decisions may be clearer. You say I'll never find somebody like you. Find somebody like you. Without the words, I love you
out this blue, alright? Oh, there's two of them behind it. There's another.
I love you till the end.